Okay, let's see here. Okay, so the more and more I hear about this Mass Effect remaster, if you enjoy it, fine, but this is me going on a pretty. I'm going to try to make it a controlled rant, but they can't somehow even add a few little shots of Shepard getting out of the rubble and, like, actually making their way home or wherever the fuck from a destroyed Earth in the destroy ending. Because to me, everything else is a fucking slap to the face. But even the destroy ending is rather horrific. Everything's horrific in that game. You basically work it up and then you don't have a golden ending at all. You don't. The Citadel was more of what I was looking for in an actual ending, like an after action thing. If you did everything well enough to gain enough forces to overtake the Reapers, which is why I plotted out in the beginning how Uplift Protocol would begin, middle, and end with some basic lines about what happens to each character. So that way the middle part, that's how I outlined. The middle part will showcase how they got from point A to point B to point C, that sort of thing. But Mass Effect is still fucking cocking it up. And the thing is, I used to love that series. I played the first one dozens of times, at least 13, 14 times, because I just enjoyed it that much. 2, I played about, I want to say 6 times. And 3, I only played once. And then I waited till they added in the extended bullshit, and then, the rest of the DLCs, and I'm looking at the Citadel in comparison, it's like, that's the real fucking ending. I'm never gonna go to goddamn fucking piece of shit Earth because you guys basically dropped the fucking ball. You could have a great beginning and middle and even partial of an end, but if you drop the ball at the 10-yard line, you basically fuck yourself over. People will look back on the rest of the past content and be like, why the fuck did you even do that? What was the purpose of this content? Why did we even follow these characters? Why the fuck did we even care? It's basically it's an empty investment, which is the reason why I find it so much easier now to basically middle finger 1, middle finger 2 to DC Comics, Marvel Comics, and all the modern entertainment, because you guys don't want to work towards something positive. You just want to use it as soapbox and like, oh, my autisms, and basically my feminisms, and my politics. It's like, no matter what you do, you're probably going to put a little bit of your own point of view in anything you write. But the trick is to not beat your audience over the head with it. Even with Uplift Protocol, yes, I care about babies, and I'm pissed off that social media basically says babies like me, at the time, are absolute trash and should have been aborted. It's like, so my parents should have gave up on me when I came out about 3 months early and said, oh, well, that's it. She was just a clump of cells, and she's barely breathing. Let's just throw her out with the trash. It's like, thank God they didn't. In fact, at the time I was born, the AIDS epidemic was just basically gaining traction, and the reason why it was passed around. So my dad donated 2 to 3 pints of his own blood over a course of many weeks to keep me alive. Because when I was born, again, that early, my blood was toxic. So whatever blood type I had as a baby, I no longer have that one. I have my dad's blood type now because he gave so damn much. And it pisses me off when I see people say that, like, oh yeah, babies are absolute disease and an infestation to a woman's body. It's like, it takes 2 to tango. We have a ridiculous amount of protections nowadays, so you don't get pregnant if you don't want to. Why does it take so much to buy extra set of condoms, huh? You can go to a lot of healthcare places and ask for a little brown bag and get the goddamn condoms. And plus, there's other ways to have intimate relations that don't result in people getting pregnant. But again, it takes 2 to tango. So the amount of Plan Bs I see sold at my store, it's like, yes, I still have to sell them, but it's like, it's damn disappointing to see how often people use it. It's like we have, again, all this other shit in the world to prevent pregnancy. You can use a male condom and a female condom at the same time for extra protection. But if you want a more au natural experience, that's when you have to make the choice. Are you going to actively work towards having children? The personal responsibility factor is just, ugh. That's because that's what my parents taught me. They taught me personal responsibility. That's why I don't have any children, because I don't, again, I don't have a house of my own. I don't have the resources to take care of a kid. My brother does. He's an Army officer. But guess what? I'll help out that way. Because I know, me personally, yeah, I'm not in any position to have kids. And plus, I'm 37 now. My eggs are pretty much at the last end of their TikTok. You know, if I decide to try to have a kid now, there's a higher chance of that kid developing, basic mental problems because, again, having a kid that late. Now, a viable option to me for later, maybe adopting a kid. But for now, I know where I'm at financially and with it in terms of, like, again, I'm not married, so. But to get back more on track with all this stuff, yes, most books will have a little bit of the writer's personal, preferences and maybe a little bit of their politics, but the good ones don't beat people over the head with it. Again, Babylon 5 is a good example of this. JMS presented a whole lot of different stuff, and yes, he is very much liberal, but when he made Babylon 5, he didn't beat people over the head with his own ideas in terms of his politics. He added some political situations for the characters that made sense within that setting. And he wasn't really trying to do much of a callback to our politics. He did like some tongue-in-cheek stuff with the Rush Act, to reference Rush Limbaugh. But he had Sinclair in season 1 use that against his own government to be like, okay, here's how we'll handle this particular issue or riot. Basically have the military help pay for extra funding for the workers on the docks. There you go. But the way he presents Babylon 5, yeah, he's not telling any one section of writer or viewer or reader or anybody else that, oh yeah, your politics suck, I'm going to beat you over the head about it. That's what old shows and books and everything else did. You could tell what a writer's politics were probably by some of the themes they did, but like with Narnia, for the most part, he's just telling an interesting story. Now, yes, there's a kerfuffle near the end with the silver chair where Susan doesn't get to go to the reestablished Aslan's, land, basically, but all the other friends of Narnia did. Apparently, he was going to write more on that, but like with anything else, stuff happened, and he never really got around to it. The thing is, people can interpret things many different ways, but overall, I've found that all the older stuff has catered to just mostly my sense of wonder, a sense of like what's around the next corner, and Mass Effect fell flat on its face with that. It was nihilistic to the point where it's like I never picked up 3 again. Not after completing all the DLCs, and that was the only Mass Effect game I never repeated at all. I would watch videos sometimes, and yes, before they patched it, I kept shooting that stupid ass little kid over and 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 over for about 10 minutes. Just because it's like they were trying to do too much fart huffing and fart sniffing at the end with that series. When you're doing RPGs or anything that gives you even the illusion of choice, like I've said before, give people the golden ending or secret ending, because even Suikoden does this. It makes you work for it a bit, just in terms of collecting all the stars, but at least they give you the option. And even some of the other endings in Suikoden aren't nearly as nihilistic as frickin' Mass Effect 3's. Because this is the basic thing I wanted to see. Shepard climbing out of the rubble and walking towards, the rest of his strike team or something. Something to showcase that Shepard managed to do the impossible and still climbed out of that rubble. That's it. You could have just had Shepard walking up to whoever was his squad mates or her squad mates at the very last moment and just giving them a clap on the back or something. Or waving, kind of like what happened with Mass Effect 1. You think something's happened to Shepard, and then they appear from the rubble. They could have copy-pasted the same damn thing for Mass Effect 3's endings. but they wanted to be artistic, nihilistic fart snuffers. Yeah. See, because I know I complain about the lack of overall aspirational hero and optimistic endings, but you know what? I'm hoping throughout all this that that stuff will make an absolute comeback. Like, give people something to look up towards and dream about rather than smashing it in the dirt, because to them, relatability nowadays is like, how much more flawed and fucked up can this character be than an actual person? Because it is to the point of parody, to where it's just like, really? That's what you want to see out of a protagonist? Well, I don't, so my money's not going towards that shit. It's just not. If that still makes me a minority when it comes to reading and writing, oh well. I'm going to still fucking write. I'm going to keep writing every day, and I'm going to keep adding to Uplift Protocol, because to me, that's the series that will course correct things that went wrong for me, for Superman, for Mass Effect, for Star Trek, for Star Wars, all that shit. And I don't include Babylon 5 in that, because Babylon 5 really, yes, it had a little bit of a melancholy ending, but compared to a lot of stuff nowadays, it was downright optimistic in comparison. At least Sheridan got a part of his life back at the end. Which, here, you know what? I will spoil people on this, because, you know what? I've already told people I'm going to do, diabetes for ending for Uplift Protocol. But I have a kind of similar idea for how to get Eliza out of that situation, for where, yes, when she finally strikes Unity with her left arm with that spear, it will kill her. But, like Sheridan, she's going to get to come back, because, again, I guess people, as long as you've been reading, the Bardaxians have been working on that since day fucking one. And as you've been reading further along, you realize, like, the Bardaxians are a much more ancient race. Like, that's a running theme through a lot of Uplift Protocol. There's different cycles and different first ones, where, again, I took from Lorien, where, after a certain point, other races that came after him started aging and dying. Well, I took that aspect and what if Unity caused that? What if, like, the very first few races created after the Weave ended up being immortals, kind of like Tolkien's elves in that aspect? Then every cycle after that, if something would change, then hey, then that race is now no longer going to be as long lived as the previous. Which is why I also tied that into where white ended up creating the Scholars, black ended up creating the Latari, and some of them have aspects of immortality, some of them. But during the later cycles, after the advent of Unity, then that's when some of them started, again, like aging. So there's different aspects I'm taking from all these different things I've loved, but I just tweak it a little bit. Because, again, it doesn't require a whole lot of originality. When you're writing, take a lot of the stuff you loved, and if some other series or franchise went in a direction that was utter shitberg to you, then change it in your own setting, which is what I'm going to do. Eliza is going to have that, resurrection aspect, just like Sheridan, but her lifespan isn't going to be nearly as crippled. She'll eventually die of, natural causes, but, once you see throughout the series, like, how that's going to be set up, then you'll realize, like, how she's tied to both the past and the future. Again, I'll get there, but I guess I could also put a spoiler warning on this video. But honestly, I've been kind of spoiling people about Uplift Protocol anyway. It's like, yeah, some characters legitimately do have plot armor up to a certain point in Uplift Protocol. Because I don't mind plot armor. Plot armor isn't a bad thing. It just depends on what kind of story you want to tell. In a more optimistic story, or a more serialized story, you always have characters that come back and do new adventures. Now, in Uplift Protocol's case, okay, gotta pause it. Sorry about that, I had to blow my nose again. Allergies, but yeah. I hated the ending of Mass Effect 3, so everything I hated about the ending of Mass Effect 3 it's going to be the complete opposite with Uplift Protocol. It's not going to be nihilistic at all. It's going to be very hopeful. It's basically going to be about rebirth. That's the reason why the final book is titled Sleeping in Starlight, because you'll actually finally see like where all these quotes have been coming from and like what the time period or time frame has been. And yes, I already know how like the biggest aspects of time travel. If you haven't picked up on it already, the weave has a certain kind of tie to that. The weave kind of exists within time and outside of time. So it knew when to kind of poke things to like cause certain aspects to happen, which it's the reason why it's also trying to help hide the Earthstone, because even though a lot of Aether's people have been turned into soldiers for unity, not all of them are gone, and not all of them are going to just lie there and, you know, keel over. You'll see that with like a lot of the final battle, because I'm going to make it where, unlike Mass Effect, where it's like, oh, all those ships and troops you gathered, it doesn't make a goddamn bit of difference. No, with Uplift Protocol, everybody that Eliza and her brother Dexter gather to the Terran Typherian Union, because that is going to happen. You could see it from the titles in the books, but I'm working all towards an ending I want to see. That's about it. Welcome to this TED Talk / rant. See you later, everybody. And don't feed corporations that are just handing you crumbs. If you really do enjoy Mass Effect, just replay the old shit. And then, you know what? When that remaster launches, don't buy it directly. Wait until it hits the flea market, and then buy its sorry ass from a third-party seller, if you really want to do that. Me, personally, I'm going to just look at the face palming, from various outlets every once in a while, but I'm not going to give that thing much of a time of day, because if I look at Mass Effect 3's ending again, it's just going to piss me off all over again. Bye-bye.